When Elon Musk teams up with a cryogenically frozen Uncle Sam and the Green Giant guy, things get complicated. To understand everything, we'd need to watch about 124 hours of content. Neither of us have that kind of time, so let's speed things up with an MCU crash course. The MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is the collection of interconnected films made by Marvel Studios that's based on and inspired by classic Marvel comics. So far, it's been split into 2 sagas in 5 phases. The first saga is called the Infinity Saga, and follows Thanos, that's this guy's, journey to collect the stones that control the universe. This saga is the first 3 phases. Then we've got the Multiverse Saga, about the multiverse, which is phases 4 and 5 so far. Each video in this series will cover a different phase. First up, phase 1. Making up phase 1 is Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk, Iron Man 2, Thor, Captain America the First Avenger, and the Avengers. In Iron Man, tech billionaire Tony Stark is visiting his newest creation, the Jericho missile. When the convoy that he's in is attacked, he gets injured and trapped in a cave. There, he meets a doctor named Jensen, not to be confused with Yensid, the sorcerer from Disney's Fantasia, who puts an electromagnet in Tony's chest and helps him build a suit of armor so he can escape. After experiencing this, Tony declares that his company, Stark Industries, will no longer make weapons, which upsets manager Obadiah Stane, who worked with Tony's dad. Tony does, however, continue to develop that armor to varied results. Meanwhile, his assistant, Pepper Potts, meets with Phil Coulson, an agent for the
Strategic Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division.
That's quite a mouthful.
I know. We're working on it.
Stane, still upset that Tony is wasting the legacy of his dad, who started the company, steals the arc reactor from Tony and builds his own Iron Man suit. After Tony replaces his arc reactor, the two face off and Stane dies. S.H.I.E.L.D., thank goodness for acronyms, gives Tony a statement to read at a press conference that will get people to stop asking questions about all this. But he instead admits to the world that he is Iron Man. In a post-credits scene, Tony is visited by Nick Fury, the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., who wants to talk to him about the Avenger initiative. Next up, the Incredible Hulk. Here we meet scientist Bruce Banner, who volunteers for a World War II-era super soldier serum. After getting exposed to way too much radiation, though, Banner finds that anytime his heart rate is too high, he turns into a giant green monster called the Hulk. After killing several lab scientists, he's forced into hiding, where he works to keep his anger in check. U.S. General Thunderbolt Ross sends a SWAT team to find Banner, but he easily takes them all down. In response, Emil Blonsky, the head of that SWAT team, takes the same serum that Banner did, and feels similar results, only he has even less control. Dr. Samuel Stearns creates an antidote to the Hulk's powers based on Banner's blood, but Blonsky gets a hold of it and injects it. This reacts poorly with the super soldier serum, and Blonsky becomes the Abomination. The Hulk and Abomination battle through New York, and Banner takes Blonsky down and escapes. Then, in a post-credits scene, Tony Stark visits General Ross to talk to him about a special team that he's working on. In Iron Man 2, Russian physicist Ivan Vanko gets blueprints for an arc reactor from his dying father, who used to work for Tony Stark's dad before they had a falling out. Vanko vows to create the arc reactor and get revenge on the Starks. Meanwhile, Tony finds out that his arc reactor is killing him. The military wants their own Iron Man suits, but Tony says it's too dangerous, and proceeds to drive in a Formula 1 race. While there, though, Vanko attacks with his arc reactor and electrified whips. Tony puts on a portable suit, and his assistant Happy Hogan helps him take down Vanko. Stark Industries competitor Justin Hammer, though, breaks Vanko out of jail in return for his very own Iron Man suit. When Tony gets drunk at his birthday party in the suit, his friend James Rhodes, who was in the last movie but played by a different actor, gets in another one to help him. Later, Tony's able to use his AI computer, Jarvis, to create a new element that saves his life. Justin Hammer unveils a set of drones and a new Iron Man suit for Rhodes, but they're both controlled by Vanko. In trying to wrestle back control, Hammer goes to jail, and S.H.I.E.L.D. asset, Natasha Romanoff, is able to get control of the suit back to Rhodes. Alas, they are set to explode. Tony flies Pepper Potts to safety, they kiss, and the day is saved. Yes, this one's a little all over the place, but in this post-credit scene, Agent Coulson from the first movie drives through the desert to find a mysterious hammer. That hammer shows up again in Thor. Scientists Jane Foster, Eric Selvig, and Darcy Lewis are chasing a lightning storm when they hit a guy in the middle of the road. That guy is Thor, god of thunder, from the mystical kingdom of Asgard. The Asgardians have been at war with the nearby frost giants forever, but the Asgardians finally won. The king of Asgard, named Odin, tells Thor and his adopted frost giant brother Loki, the god of mischief, that only one of them will become king. It's Thor, which makes Loki very jealous. When frost giants attack again, Thor wants to retaliate and Odin says no. When Thor and his friends attack anyway, Odin removes Thor's powers and banishes him to Earth. Thor finds his hammer, protected by S.H.I.E.L.D. in the desert where we saw it in Iron Man 2, but can no longer lift it as he's not worthy. Odin falls into a coma, and Loki becomes acting king, telling Thor that Odin is dead and sending a magical suit of armor to kill Thor. Thor asks Loki to leave Earth alone, and he'll surrender, making him worthy again of his hammer, which he takes with him back to Asgard. There, Thor and Loki fight, and Loki surrenders and floats away into space to die. The status quo is reset, and Thor is assured that Jane Foster, who he's fallen for, is looking for him. The post-credits scene shows Dr. Eric Selvig at a S.H.I.E.L.D. base being shown a mysterious cube, and Loki appears to tell him to look at it. Then, Captain America, the first Avenger. During World War II, members of a group called Hydra find a mysterious cube called the Tesseract. Meanwhile, a guy named Steve Rogers is rejected for service again because of his health issues. Recognizing how much Rogers wants to help his country, scientist Abraham Erskine tells him about a super soldier serum he could take. A man named Schmidt, Erskine says, also got the serum, but is a bad person and is very dangerous. Schmidt finds where Erskine is and sends an assassin to kill him. Steve Rogers gets the serum, but Schmidt's assassin kills Erskine. Steve ends up becoming a performer for the USO to try to get people to buy war bonds as the patriotic Captain America. While this does help the country, Steve wants to actually fight. When he finds out that the unit that his best friend Bucky Barnes led went missing, he sets off to rescue them, as Schmidt continues to use the Tesseract to become even more dangerous. Captain America saves Bucky's unit and confronts Schmidt, who turns out to have been wearing a mask and really has a red skull. Thus he's called Red Skull. Steve gets to become an actual soldier now, with his own team, working to fight Hydra and the Red Skull. But tragedy strikes when Bucky falls to his death off a moving train. His team finds out about a huge plane of weapons that the Red Skull is flying, and Steve climbs on board to try to take it over. In the fight, the Tesseract sucks Red Skull into a wormhole, leaving the plane plummeting. Steve had a date planned with Peggy Carter of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s predecessor, the SSR, and promises that he'll make it, as he's forced to fly the plane into the ocean to avoid the weapons hurting anyone, but sacrificing himself in the process. Then, he wakes up, in the hospital. Realizing, though, that the baseball game being talked about on the radio already happened, he flees the room and finds himself in modern-day Times Square. Here, Nick Fury tells him that he's been asleep for 70 years. But Fury needs him for a mysterious new mission. This leads to the Avengers, the culmination of all these stories so far. Loki, Thor's brother, agrees to work with the leader of an alien race called the Chitauri to get the Tesseract from Captain America and rule over Earth. Loki attacks a S.H.I.E.L.D. base, steals the Tesseract, mind controls Dr. Selvig from Thor and a new character named Clint Barton, and escapes. In response, Nick Fury officially kicks off the Avengers initiative. Iron Man, the Hulk, played by a different actor now, Natasha Romanoff, also known as the Black Widow, Thor, and Captain America team up to take down Loki and save the city. They track down Loki, who surrenders and is brought to the flying S.H.I.E.L.D. base, the Helicarrier, for questioning. Infighting breaks out between our heroes, though, when they realize that S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to use the Tesseract to create weapons. In the distraction, Loki's soldiers attack the Helicarrier, and Banner turns back into the Hulk. Captain America and Iron Man fix the damage, and Thor and Black Widow tame the Hulk and Clint Barton, also known as Hawkeye, respectively. But Loki escapes and kills Agent Coulson. Motivated to avenge his death, the Avengers take to the streets of New York to stop the wormhole that Loki and Selvig created and defeat the Chitauri army. Meanwhile, the World Security Council chooses to nuke the city, but Iron Man catches the missile and flies into space. He falls unconscious, but he's okay. They close the wormhole and the day is saved. Loki gets brought back to Asgard to be punished. The team enjoys a nice break with some shawarma, and Loki's boss talks with his boss to find out what to do next. This is the end of Phase 1, and sets up the next 6 movies in Phase 2. We'll get there next time. So, to recap the recap. Tech mogul Tony Stark builds a metal suit of armor and becomes Iron Man. Bruce Banner gets injected with a failed Captain America serum that turns him into the Hulk whenever he gets angry. Tony's army friend James Rhodes can pilot an Iron Man suit now, and Natasha Romanoff is a skilled fighter named the Black Widow. Thor, son of Odin and next in line to rule Asgard, is the god of thunder, in love with scientist Jane Foster. Captain America was given a super soldier serum and fought in World War II before waking up in modern-day New York, where S.H.I.E.L.D. director Nick Fury assembled the Avengers to protect Earth from Thor's brother Loki and the army of someone who doesn't appear to be done fighting. What will happen to our heroes now? Stay tuned for the next MCU Crash Course.